our meeting like we always do with our invocation. Council Wu, I'm inviting you up to introduce our clergy. So Wu, you have the floor.
Afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much to Pastor Alfred Montbelor for joining us. Pastor Montbelor is the head of U-Turn Ministries in Manapan and president of the International Haiti Community Building Network. He's the founder of several organizations that support youth with after-school services and supports. He's worked with the Baker House, 10 Point Coalition, Boston Courts, Department of Social Services, probation, law enforcement to support youth development and community safety. On a personal note, he is just a treasure to the community, and we are blessed that he continues to serve. In 2006, Reverend Montbelor became very ill with cancer and fought a long battle. Today, he is doing well and working to come back slowly, continuing to improve his health and serve the community. And his long-term goal is to continue supporting the Haitian community of Massachusetts, build the capacity of community members, increase the knowledge and civic participation, especially young people, and empowering the larger community to be part of shaping our community. So thank you so much, Reverend Alfred Montbelor, for joining us, and the floor is yours. Pastor, I think we can't hear
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm glad to join and be here this morning on behalf of the whole community Haitian and the community of Boston. I just thank you for giving me the chance to participate. I'd ask everyone to let us bow our heads together in a word of prayer. Loving Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour before our Boston City Council's meeting, asking for your wisdom and guidance. We pray for your wisdom. We pray for your guidance. Lord, guide each and every step of our leaders, from the White House on down to our local officials. We pray today especially for the city of Boston. We know that COVID-19 has been affecting the lives of our citizens. We call on you this morning, God, and we ask that you continue to lead and protect us as a nation. Give the city councilors of Boston the peace of mind, the courage, the willingness to do right. Keep each and every one of them safe, God, away from sickness, danger, temptation, and all other type of trap that may be in their path. Give them the desire to find ways to excel in their daily work. Help them to work together and encourage each other to excellence. We ask that each and every one of our city councilors would challenge each other to reach higher and farther, to be the best they can be, to make our great city of Boston fair for all with the same justice for everyone. We ask this in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. At this time, Pastor, we're going to pledge allegiance to the flag if you'd like to join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much, and thank you again, Pastor, for that inspiring message. You are welcome to join us or leave at your leisure. We also have a special presentation today. We don't have many, well, we haven't had many during remote work, but it's great to get some of these things back on our agenda, and so grateful to have folks with us this morning. I'm going to invite Councilor Anissa Asabi-George up to say some words and to get our special guests up to the dais, I guess, so that they can say some words. Councilor Asabi-George, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm proud to invite Principal Roger Oatzer from William J. Ostagai High School and his student, Francie Nieves, for today's council presentation. As you know, September is Recovery Month. In addition, we are participating in our first week of hybrid in-person learning for the Boston Public Schools, which makes this presentation all the more timely. The Ostagai High School is one of 4 recovery high schools in the state and provides life-saving support services for some of our most vulnerable students. During these difficult and unprecedented times, I think it's important to uplift the contributions of our residents working tirelessly every single day. In particular, Roger, I'd like to thank him for his leadership and dedication to our students. As Roger, I've gotten to know Roger, especially over the last 4.5 years or so. His commitment to our kids is really second to none, and the support he offers them, not just academically, but socially and emotionally, as they're also dealing with substance use disorders, really is amazing to see up close and firsthand. I hope that all of you, as schools reopen and when we get to a time where it's safe, I ask that all of you spend some time and visit Ostagai High School. Roger has brought with him today his student, and Francie is a Dorchester resident in the 12th grade at Ostagai. I thank you so much for both of you joining us, and I'd love to invite Francie to say a few words. Francie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Francie. I'm 21 years old. I go to Ostagai High. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. My drug of choice is cocaine, opioids, benzos, and alcohol. I started using when I was 16 years old. And I felt like I wanted to be a cool kid, so I decided I wanted to use the drugs and alcohol. And it wasn't a good path for me. It was a horrible path for me. I went through a lot of tragedies throughout the time of using, and I wasn't working. I had no money. I dropped out of school when I was using also in the 12th grade, 2 months before graduation. And I done a lot in my life to change around. On May 28th of 2020, I went into my first detox. I wasn't sure if I was ready for detox, but I had pushed myself really hard to get into detox. And it took a lot out of me to get into the detox. It was an okay detox, but it wasn't like the best I wanted it to be. You know, I had somewhere to sleep, and I had food in my mouth, and I was able to take a shower. I wasn't sleeping on the streets, and I wasn't able to go to school and stuff when I was using. And when I got into detox, I was like, I want to further my treatment. I want to get better. I want to do better in life. I want to have an education. I want to go to college. I want to do what's best for me. So I ended up getting into my first program, the Cushing House. I was there for a month and a half, and I ended up leaving because I felt like, you know, if I can stay sober in a program, I can stay sober at home. So currently I'm in Boston with my mom, and I'm in the Ostagai High School, and I entered the high school in the summertime. And it's been the best school I've ever been to, really, because they really work with me. I've had some points in time in the summer where I had issues with my computer and I wasn't able to attend school. So they were able to be reached out to when they have good communication on when you're struggling and when you have things going on, to let them, you know. And I had let them know that I was going through some things, and they still worked with me, and they still like, you know, we're here for you. We're going to keep doing what we have to do in order to get you graduated. And now that school's officially started, and they've been really helpful too. They even though it's remote, they've been very good at it. They've been really pushing us to do better and to graduate, and that's the key goal for all the students in the school, is to graduate, and they're there for us, and they push us to be successful. That's all they really want for us, is to be successful students. And I really feel like even though we're remote, I feel like some students also on the behalf on other students, we really want to be in school too, because there's some points of remote learning, it really isn't helpful. So I would really love to get back into school, because that is like my number one thing. Like, I love being in person. I don't know what it is, but it's more easier for me to be in person and to learn and be hands-on with the teachers. And yeah, that's just the main goal. Like, I really just want to be in school, and I want to be person to person with the teachers, because the remote is really, I feel like it's really harder than the person on person. And yeah, that's what I have to say so far. Thank you.
Francie, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and I think sharing your energy and your spirit with us. It is a wonderful way for us to start our council meeting today. And Roger, thank you so much for introducing Francie to all of us and letting her share her story, and keep up your good work. I look forward to your graduation. Thank you, Roger. Francie. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you both. Thank you so much, and much success to you. Oops.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on in our agenda. Before we do that, Mr. Clerk, if you could please amend the attendance report to reflect that we've been joined by Councilor Edwards.
Council Edwards, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Wonderful. And now we will move on to the first item on our agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. Seeing and hearing no discussion on the matter, the chair moves to approve the minutes from the last meeting as presented. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Brayton. Councilor Brayton.
You're on mute.
Oh, I know. I'm having difficulty with my microphone. Yes.
Councilor Brayton, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Hey, Alex. Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yeah.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Madam President, we have a unanimous vote in the affirmative.
Okay, thank you. We seem to be having some technical difficulties with sound. I noticed that with the pastor. So if there's something we can do behind the scenes, that would be great. Thank you again, Clerk. The minutes of the last meeting stand as approved. Let's move on now to reports of public officers and others. Mr. Clerk, if you could please read docket 1018 and 1019 together.
Docket number 1018, notice was received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 relative to action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting of September 16, 2020. Docket number 1019, notice was received from the city clerk in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinances of 1979 relative to action taken by the mayor on papers acted upon by the city council at its meeting of September 23rd, 2020.
Thank you so much. Dockets 1018 and 1019 will be placed on file. Let's move on to reports of committees next. And if you could read docket 0909, that would be great.
Docket number 0909, the Committee on Government Operations, to which was referred on August 19th, 2020. Docket number 0909, ordinance amending the City of Boston Code, ordinances Chapter 8-7, Public Improvement Commission. Submits a report recommending the ordinance ought to pass.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councilor Edwards, who is chair of the Committee on Government Operations. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Docket 0909, the ordinance amending the City of Boston Code, was sponsored by Mayor Walsh and referred to the committee on August 19, 2020. The committee held a hearing on September 25th, where public comment was taken. This would amend Section 8-7.1 of the Boston Code regarding the membership of the Public Improvement Commission. I will refer to that as the PIC going forward. The proposal would expand the membership of the PIC to include the Commissioner of Disabilities Commission as a voting member. The proposal also expressly adds the Executive Director of the Boston Water and Sewer Commission in order to update the current ordinance. The Executive Director of the Boston Water and Sewer Commission currently has a vote on the PIC, but the BWSC was not in existence at the time that the current ordinance was enacted. It's more of a corrected measure when it comes to the Sewer Commission. Expanding the membership of the PIC will provide for the effective management of public rights of ways, enhance public travel, and safeguard public safety. The PIC owns and has jurisdiction and authority over the city's private and public ways. The Disabilities Commission works closely with BTD, the Boston Transportation Department, Public Works Department, and other entities to ensure the cities and sidewalks are open and accessible to all residents. This proposal would add a seat for the Disabilities Commissioner as a voting member. At the hearing, the committee heard from the following folks, following people from the administration. Chris Osgood, Chief of Streets, Commissioner Kristen McCosh, Disabilities Commission, Prada Jaya Singh, Engineer at Public Works Department, Todd Liming, Interim Chief Engineer of the PIC, and Chung Lu, the attorney from the Public Works Department. The committee expressed support for the PIC, expanding the PIC voting membership to include the Disabilities Commission due to the critical role it plays in ensuring accessibility. The committee recognized the importance of the role, and in light of the many, many planning initiatives in the city, felt it was very necessary they have a seat at the table. The committee expressed support for expanding the voting membership of the PIC to the Commissioner of Disabilities, and as the chair of the Committee on Operations, I submit this report recommending that this docket ought to pass.
Thank you so much for that report. Councilor Edwards seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 0909. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Docket number 0909. Councilor Arroyo. Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Asabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Asabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Madam President, we have a unanimous vote in the affirmative.
Excellent. Thank you so much. The committee report has been accepted and docket 0909 has been passed. Moving right along to matters recently heard for possible action. If you could read docket 0890, that would be great.
Docket number 0890, order for a hearing to discuss internet access and digital equity in the city of Boston.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councilor Flynn, Chair of the Committee on City and Neighborhood Services. Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the Committee on City Neighborhood Services held a hearing on Monday on digital equity and internet access. The hearing was sponsored by myself, Councilor Mejia, and Councilor Flaherty. The panelists include Mike Lynch, Director, Broadband and Cable, Do It; David Elge, Chief Information Officer, Do It; Dan Noyes, the CEO of Tech Goes Home; Glenn Williams, the General Manager of Boston Neighborhood Network Media; Akeem Jackson, Senior Director of Family Engagement and External Relations, Up Education Network; Dr. Pam Edinger, President, Bunker Hill Community College; Lorena Lapora, Executive Director, Mass Latinos for Education; Deborah Baucus, Executive Director of the Castle Square Tenants Organization. Panelists and counselors in attendance all highlighted the importance of having internet access to the internet, especially during this pandemic. as services, resources, and classes moved online. As Councilor Braden mentioned in the hearing, internet is now an important utility, just like electricity. We heard from DeWitt about using the Digital Equity Fund to work together with organizations such as Tech Goes Home to provide classes on digital skills and expanding the city's wicked-free Wi-Fi and broadband network. We heard from BNN about how they broadcast classes and educational programs on their network for children and students at home. We heard from our community advocates panelists who spoke about the hardship that many students and residents face without access to quality internet during the pandemic, and emphasized the need for affordable and stable internet access, especially for working families, immigrants, seniors, and communities of color. I want to thank all of the city councilors for attending this hearing on Monday, as well as the panelists who testified. Digital equity is an important issue, and I look forward to continuing working with my colleagues and advocates on this issue and having a future working session as well. And Madam President, I would like to offer or ask my councilors, Councilor Mejia and Flaherty, if they would also like to weigh in on the hearing as well.
Only briefly, because we really only need to hear from committee chairs when we do these reports. But the chair recognizes Councilor Flaherty. I see your blue hand is up. Would you like to say?
Thank you, Madam President. Obviously, thank you to Chairman Flynn also for hosting the important hearing. And as he discussed, we had a great and very impressive group of panelists at Monday's hearing that prompted some good discussion about the digital divide and how it's impacting the city. There's clearly a lot of work to be done on this issue. I know that we as a body are willing and able partners, along with the administration, along with philanthropic partners and many community partners. So I look forward to continuing this critical work. And several suggestions came forward, whether that was sort of implemented strategies around creating guides and help books to help families better understand this, pivoting and bringing in entirety community of college students to online classes, as well as suggesting ideas such as mesh networks. So, and I also think hopefully through the chair, when we have the working session, we'll bring in the providers. Some are better than others. Some are doing more than others, a lot like Pilot. I think they need to be part of the discussion and part of the solution as well. So look forward to that and appreciate the comments.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Councilor Flaherty. The chair recognizes Councilor Mejia. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I'll be very brief with my remarks. Just wanted to uplift and highlight a lot of the issues that also bubbled up to the top in terms of equity and access with language barriers that a lot of folks were experiencing. And I think that the city has an opportunity to identify partners. As Councilor Flaherty alluded to, we have a lot of colleges in the neighborhoods, and we also have business partners that if we're not tapping into these folks who are doing business in the city of Boston and finding ways for them to support our most vulnerable learners, then we're missing out on an opportunity. So really looking forward to the working session and what comes after that. Thank you so much, Madam President, for giving me the privilege of speaking.
Thank you, you guys. Thank you so much. This is docket 0890, and it will remain in committee. We will now move on to docket 1003.
Docket 1003, home rule petition for a special law, an act directing the City of Boston Police Department to waive the minimum age requirement for police officers for Darrell LaMonica.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councilor Edwards, who is chair of the Committee on Government Operations. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
Dear colleagues, docket 0113, the petition to waive the maximum age requirement for police officer Darrell LaMonica was sponsored by Councilor Frank Baker, referred to the committee on September 23rd. The committee held a hearing on September 29th where public comment was taken. In attendance was the lead sponsor, Councilor Baker, also Councilor Alsabi George, Councilor Braden, Councilor Flaherty, and Councilor Flynn. Docket 0113 would authorize the City of Boston to waive the maximum age requirement of the original appointment according to state laws. Currently, initially the state law, MGL Chapter 31, Section 58A, provides that the maximum age for original appointment as a police officer is 32. as of the date of entrance of the examination and also allows credit for military service. However, Chapter 43 of the Acts of 2007 raised the age of original appointment as a police officer in Boston by providing that no person shall be eligible for original appointment of police officer in Boston if such person has reached their 40th birthday on the date of the entrance examination. This home rule petition relates specifically and only to Daryl LaMonica. It does not in any way change the age requirements for anybody else petitioning to go into the Boston Police Department. Mr. LaMonica would still be required to meet all the qualifications in order to become a police officer, including getting through the academy, passing the exam, physical capabilities, and successful completion of the academy. This home rule petition is the mechanism that would allow Mr. LaMonica to be certified for original appointment. Currently, he is 3 months too old in order to, and didn't make the cutoff by 3 months. The committee asked about his background and discussed the procedural process and where Mr. LaMonica was in the process. He is trying to and currently going through it, but he still needs this home rule to allow him to complete. He testified specifically about the circumstances for which he previously left the police academy. In total transparency, he was in the academy, he made the cutoff, then had to leave. He had suffered some issues within his family, 2 deaths, and according to him, making no excuses, he lost focus. And he wants the opportunity, the second chance, to maintain that focus and to continue on with his career. He has learned from his experience. He is born and raised in Boston. He graduated from South Boston High School, then ultimately now lives in Dorchester. He is completely committed to being a police officer and said that has been his lifelong goal. So therefore, passage of this home rule petition is still required in order for him to continue on that path and to be ultimately still evaluated as to whether he can be a police officer. By the chair, or as chair of the Committee on Government Operations, I submit this report recommending that this docket ought to pass.
Thank you so much. Councilor Baker, as sponsor of this legislation, would you like to say a few brief words before we move forward?
I just thank you, Madam President. I just like to thank the chair. She gave a very good synopsis there. Daryl's been, his family's been friend with my family for years. If we do give Daryl this second chance, we have to, or we'll have to go up to the State House past that. He has to go through all the police, the psych visits, the home visits, all that stuff. So this does not make him a police officer. He still has quite a bit of hurdles to get through. We're just allowing him to continue forward. The police could get through everything and then offer him a spot and then realize he's 3 months too old. So to avoid all that, I appreciate my colleagues that came yesterday. And if you would vote to give Daryl a second chance, that would be good. I believe he'll be a great police officer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Baker and Councilor Edwards. Seeing and hearing no other discussion. Okay, no other discussion. Councilor Edwards seeks acceptance of the committee report and passage of docket 1003. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Docket 1003, Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Asabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Asabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Madam President, 13 vote is unanimous in the affirmative.
Thank you so much. The committee report has been accepted and docket 1003 has been passed. We'll now move on to docket 0983.
Docket number 0983, order for a hearing regarding planning to support our restaurants and bars.
Excellent. Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Mejia, who is chair of the Committee on Small Business and Workforce Development. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Yesterday's hearing on supporting restaurants and bars was incredibly important and timely. Docket 0983, order for a hearing regarding planning to support our restaurants and bars, was sponsored by Councilor Bach and Breeden, and I also like to thank my other colleagues who attended, Councilors Campbell, Flynn, Arroyo, O'Malley, and Asabi George. The panelists included folks from the industry, Bob Luce, who's the president and CEO of Massachusetts Restaurant Association, Michael Serpa from Select Oyster, Ginger Brown, the executive director of Jamaica Plain / Center Street South Main Streets, Jay Walsh, executive director of Downtown North Association, and Doug Bacon, Red Paint Hospitality Group. In regards to the administration, we were joined by Natalia Uberti, who is the Director of Small Businesses, Chris English, the Chief of Staff for ISD, Dan Manning, Assistant Commissioner of ISD, Vineet Gupte, Director of Planning for BTD, Jacob Wiesel, Public Realm Director for BTD, and Leslie Delaney Hawkins, Executive Secretary for the Boston Licensing Board. I think this hearing really reminds me of a day like today when we woke up to lots of rain and most outdoor seating may not be an option. In the hearing, we explored the need to find ways to support restaurants and bars as we go into the winter. As of now, 1 in 5 restaurants in Massachusetts have closed since the outbreak of this pandemic. And we can't lose risking more because of outdoor seating is no longer an appeal to people when it's 10 degrees below freezing. During this hearing, we talked about new and innovative ideas to adjust to the cold weather, such as an in-frame tent and canopies that cover the whole street. We also talked about the current outreach to small businesses and how the city is preparing small businesses for the months ahead. It was a solution-oriented hearing, and I would like to thank the sponsors of this docket, Councilors Bach and Breeden, for being intentional about that. There's still so much work to do on this issue, and for that reason, we would like to keep this matter in committee. And I also would just like to add that we have an amazing opportunity to figure out ways, again, that we can partner with universities to maybe help, maybe students can sign up to help organize events to help support small businesses. Also figuring out if the U-Haul companies can open up space for businesses to be able to store their the items that they're not going to be able to use. So a lot of great ideas came about. Looking forward to keeping this in the committee so we can keep the dialogue going. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Docket 0983 will remain in committee, and we'll now move on to motions, orders, and resolutions. Can Mr. Clerk, if you could please read docket 1020.
Docket number 1020, Councilor O'Malley offered the following: an order for a hearing on expanding hydration and hygiene water stations in the city of Boston.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councilor O'Malley. Councilor O'Malley, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Before I begin, I wanted to just thank a couple members of my team, Peter Favorito and Alyssa Huberts, for their incredible work on this, as well as Olivia Ardito, who was one of my interns, BPS interns over the summer, did some really great research. And I also wanted to thank Rebecca Paul, who is a constituent from Jamaica Plain, who let me know about some of the innovative things that are happening up in Gloucester, Massachusetts, as it relates to hydration stations. For me, this is kind of an interesting hearing order because it was 7 or 8 years ago that I first did a hearing order on establishing water filling stations in our parks and playgrounds. That work was sort of driven by both the environmental impact that single-use water bottles have on our environment, the fact that Massachusetts ranks 4th in the country for use of plastic water bottles. You know, one would argue it's good that we're so health conscious and healthful, but obviously they are terrible for the environment, and also the cost associated with it. As a result of our work, 7 or 8 years ago, now as part of the specs in all parks and playgrounds throughout Boston, we have water filling stations when things are being renovated or when new playgrounds are coming online. And that's something I'm very, very proud of, the work that we did as a council back then to advance that. And I think it's important to revisit this idea and look at it through a different lens, a slightly different lens, as it relates to not only the environmental impact or the very real cost, but also the health impact. and the importance of hydration. You know, in a time of uncertainty and instability, the last thing that Bostonians should have to worry about is access to clean and healthy water. With the ongoing pandemic, as well as the record hot weather that we've experienced over the last several summers, which is a result from man-made climate change, access to water is vital for promoting health, both through hydration and hygiene. And we all know how important hand washing is, how critical it is, how soap has been the number one way to save ourselves and prevent the spread of the coronavirus. And we all know that we're washing hands like surgeons now, and perhaps when we didn't before. And that will continue to help reduce the spread of the coronavirus as well as other infectious diseases. And we are now in flu season. While Boston has already demonstrated its commitment and access to hygiene during this emergency, other cities from around the country have implemented ideas that Boston can benefit from greatly. Cities like Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles have installed portable hand washing stations in central squares and other heavily trafficked areas, allowing everyone the opportunity to wash away any potentially harmful germs with which they come in contact. But the buck does not stop here. Any efforts to expand water filling stations have longer-term investments in permanent access to hygiene. Hygiene challenges are exacerbated by hydration challenges, especially during heat waves in the summer months. Local efforts at identifying these heat islands and other at-risk areas can be important for saving lives during heat emergencies. The number of deaths caused by heat and hot weather grows exponentially every year, and this is just a simple way that we can address that and help protect certain people. Now, I've been very gratified to have worked with Museum of Science, our neighbors just over the streets, technically Cambridge, but some of their museum is also in Boston as well. And they've got a team that's really undertaken a local evidence-based project to map heat islands and at-risk areas for climate change within Boston, and they're going to be partners with us as we have this hearing in the weeks and months ahead. One thing their project highlighted was the challenges that presented by high asphalt downtown locations and the benefits that hydration stations, trees, or other forms of shade could confer on residents and tourists alike spending time in our downtown. The locations of urban heat islands within the city of Boston reflect historic structural disparities in income, as well as access to opportunity within our city. Now, according to the Parks Department, the city of Boston has 158 locations for public drinking fountains. The vast majority of these are located in parks. Again, a lot of this has come from our work as a body within the last 8 years. Now, we know that there are also some disparities in green space, and while we celebrate the fact that everyone lives within a 10-minute walk to a park in Boston, we have more work to do. And we know that certain neighborhoods tend to have more parks and open space, and therefore would likely have more access to water fountains. Therefore, as we talk about the work and how I want to approach it this time a little bit differently, we must apply an equity lens to access to water and expand water stations for more Boston, for all Boston neighborhoods to enjoy and to benefit from. This obviously includes more densely populated and heavily trafficked areas around the city, including our main streets, our bus, our subway stations, and our libraries. Now, the demand for these water filling stations is reflected in many participatory budget processes, including last year's Mayor's Youth Council for Boston, as well as in the city of Cambridge. We've also seen how public art can play a role in this. That's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this hearing order. You look at how public art there are water filling stations and sanitation stations that look like beautiful fountains that we can emulate. We could make this into a great contest throughout the city. We could partner with some of our colleges and universities, as the previous speaker said, with another matter, but this is a way that not only we could identify them, but really build some beautiful looking infrastructure that both provides a service and enhances the public art. Now, access to safe drinking water would not only benefit Bostonians, but the regular large influx of tourists as well, especially as the pandemic subsides. From the North Shore of Massachusetts to the Mediterranean, cities such as Gloucester and Florence, Italy, have installed water filling stations in accessible areas for residents and tourists alike. Oftentimes, we're reminded that the most effective solutions to major problems can quite often be the simplest. With water being a human right, I strongly encourage the City of Boston to expand our current water fountain system to include both water filling as well as hand washing stations. We have a responsibility to keep our most vulnerable communities safe, from Boston's unhoused population to neighborhoods most affected by heat islands and climate change. We have the infrastructure in place already. With these additions, we can wash away age-old inequities ever so present in our city and ensure that all who call Boston home are healthy. Now, two things I want to add, and I appreciate I've probably gone over my time a little bit. One is We also need to make sure that these water filling stations and these hand sanitation, these hand washing stations are available year round. We as a city turn off many of these fountains towards the end of November typically. We don't need to do that. There are cities that are far colder than Boston that are able to have insulated pipes that allow for these to continue through all 12 months of the year. So that's one thing that we need to do, and we need to do it quickly. We need to do it now. Secondly, this is a real opportunity that I'm excited about. It is not dissimilar from work that we did on sunscreen dispensers. I called the hearing order on sunscreen dispensers that was met with a wry smile from many former colleagues at the time. And now, because of our work, Boston was the first major city to offer sunscreen dispensers in parks and playgrounds. Every state in the union now offers that in some place. We were national leaders here. I think as it relates to hydration, as it relates to hygiene, as it relates to access and services that are good for the environment, good for public health, and address inequities that are inherent, this is a win-win all around. So I'm really excited for this opportunity. Look forward to working with all of you. There's no shortage of great folks in the city who've done some great work. Obviously, the mayor's been committed to this with some of his comfort stations, but this is beyond that. This is something that really we want to look at citywide and look forward to making this a reality and having Boston once again lead the way. Thank you very much, Madam President. Look forward to getting to work on this very important topic.
Thank you so much, Councilor O'Malley. Seeing no other discussion, wondering who would like to add their name. Mr. Clerk, if you could please add Councilor Flynn, Councilor Bach, Councilor Sabi George, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Arroyo, Councilor Baker, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Campbell, Councilor Braden, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Wu. Please also add the chair. Docket 1020 will be referred to the Committee on Environment, Resiliency, and Parks. We will now move on to docket 1021. Mr. Clerk.
Docket number 1021, Councilor Flaherty offered the following. Order for a hearing regarding the declining enrollment at Boston Public Schools.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. And please add, as an original co-sponsor, my at-large colleague and our Chair of Education, Councilor Nisa Sabi George.
Excuse me. Seeing and hearing no problems with that. Councilor Sabi George has been added as an original co-sponsor. Thank you, Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam President. Our Boston Public Schools have been through an enormous amount of upheaval, change, and uncertainty as a result of COVID-19. And I can say that Mayor Walsh, Superintendent Caselius and her team, the Boston Teachers Union, our many teachers, janitorial staff, paraprofessionals, secretaries, librarians, school nurses, bus drivers, school food service workers, and many other professionals that have kept our school communities running. They deserve to be acknowledged for their Herculean efforts that it's taken to pivot our schools from the remote format over the last several months to prepare for the beginning of a phased-in-person learning October 1st. So our parents, our grandparents, aunts, uncles, older brothers and sisters, tech-savvy neighbors, cousins, you name it, anyone that has helped make online schoolwork available and possible for our children deserve applause as well. Nonetheless, it's troubling to hear about the 5,000 student enrollment decline from 2016 to 2017 numbers at a time when the city's overall population has seen an uptick. So while the COVID impact it's been significant on our student enrollment figures, that shouldn't minimize that this decline comes during a time when our Catholic schools, after years-long downward trend in enrollment, have experienced significant growths in enrollment, and as a result of which many may now stay open. And I can speak to a lot of our Catholic schools that provide good quality education throughout our city, and this is clearly an opportunity for them. The numbers are staggering. In a recent Times Magazine article, Boston Trinity Academy was highlighted as experiencing a 40% increase in their applications. And interestingly enough, it was also mostly, if not all, from Boston public school families. And the superintendent of schools in the Archdiocese of Boston, Thomas Carroll, also reports that an increase of nearly 4,000 new students had enrolled in Catholic schools in Boston for the upcoming school year. So the decline in enrollment is troubling for a number of reasons, chief of which is the weighted student formula that helps determine funding levels for our schools. And declining enrollment may have detrimental impacts and effects on funding levels for our schools. So I want to ensure that as a city, we're being proactive about identifying factors that are driving enrollment declines, as well as implementing changes that will help address these factors. It's sort of a double-edged, it's a good news, obviously, for our Catholic school partners, but clearly it's ringing alarms for us here with respect to the Boston Public Schools. So many people, including all of my colleagues on this body, have been sounding the alarm about COVID-19 exacerbating the achievement gap in our schools. And I'm concerned that if this trend continues, we'll end up with an even deeper educational divide with families that can afford private school and Catholic school tuition on one side, and families that are also getting the benefit of the in-classroom learning, and families that can't on the other side. So goes without saying, all of our Boston Public School students deserve access to high quality education here in our city. And for that reason, I'm looking forward to an expedited public hearing, working closely with the Chair of Education and our colleagues to discuss this very important and pressing issue with a significant decline. 5,000, those are real numbers, 5,000 decline based on our 2016, 2017 numbers. So we need to tackle this and tackle it quickly. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much, Councilor Flaherty. The chair recognizes Councilor Asabi George. Councilor Asabi George, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Madam President. Thank you to Councilor Flaherty for adding me as an original co-sponsor to this hearing order. Declining enrollment in our public schools is a major and long-standing issue nationwide. It's an issue connected to many complex issues, like the decades-long efforts to defund public schools at the federal and state levels, the ramifications of existing racial and economic segregation, and mismanagement, sometimes too often at the district level. I look forward to getting into this conversation with the hope that we will be able to lift up solutions that will untangle this complex knot and will set every BPS school up to be the best school possible, providing the highest quality education to every student, and noting the sort of the competitive disadvantage that we too often find our public schools in, when we know that our Boston Public Schools really do offer the best academic and school opportunity for our students across the city of Boston. So it's a conversation certainly around the impact of parochial schools on the public schools and declining enrollment and the relationship there, but also the declining enrollment and the relationship with our charter schools. And that very specifically goes to some of the funding issues and corrections that we've seen happen at the state level, and we need to make sure we can realize, especially as the state completes their budget process in the coming weeks. I look forward to this conversation, look forward to making sure and ensuring that our Boston Public Schools are the beacon and the light of hope for our students across the city and the place where our families want to send their children to school. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Councilor Flaherty.
Thank you so much, Councilor Asabi George. The chair recognizes Councilor Edwards. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for this hearing order. I want to be clear. I hope that some of the Catholic schools are actually present and come to this hearing to discuss their decision to basically open full schooling and to treat as though there's really no pandemic going on. While I appreciate the fact that, we're dealing with declining enrollment, I think, part of this conversation needs to just be very frank, right? This was a competition move. They were able to poach and get a lot of BPS parents and kids to come to Catholic schools who could afford to do it. It was financially to their benefit to get them to come and to compete with them in ways that public schools could not. Those families had resources and were already probably, there was an equity to begin with, that you can have this as an option when other parents and families do not have and cannot afford to pay for private education. So I think it's
God
not
bless
innocent.
you.
Thank you.
It's simply not innocent, and it's not just a happenstance. I think the Catholic schools played an interesting role right now, and I think that it's to their financial benefit, and I think that they're taking an aggressive stance in this pandemic, and I look forward to hopefully telling that to them, to their faces, but also that we should have a real conversation about that. That's a problem as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Seeing no other discussion, any colleagues who would like to add their names, please show a physical hands. Mr. Clerk, if you could please add Councilor Flynn, Councilor Bach, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Wu, Councilor Campbell, Councilor Baker, Councilor Arroyo, and please also add Councilor O'Malley, and please also add the chair. Thank you so much. Docket 1021 will be referred to the Committee on Education. We'll move on to docket 1022.
Docket number 1022, Councilor Flynn offered the following: a resolution recognizing International Week of the Deaf.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councilor Flynn. Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, may I add Councilor Edwards as an original co-sponsor?
Seeing and hearing no objections, Councilor Edwards has been added.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, we filed this resolution to recognize International Week of the Deaf, also known as Deaf Awareness Week. This week is celebrated during the last week of September, initiated by the World Federation of the Deaf, but to celebrate accomplishments of those who are deaf and to promote their rights as well. The Massachusetts Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing estimates that there are 65,000 people with hearing disabilities in Massachusetts, and hearing problems are far the most common service-related disability among veterans as well. Our city is doing a lot to support our hard of hearing and deaf community. I'm also proud of the Horace Mann School for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, which is a BPS school located in Brighton. It is the oldest public school for those with hearing disabilities in the United States, provides a dual language program for individuals with hearing disabilities to be both fluent in ASL and English. As we know, ASL is the primary language for those who have hearing impairment to communicate. I'm also proud of the City of Boston Disabilities Commission and Commissioner McCosh. They have made significant improvements throughout the city to provide language and communication access for those who are hard of hearing as well. We need to continue to support and advocate for the full participation in everyday life of those that are hard of hearing and those with disabilities as well. So I want to file this resolution to recognize our deaf and hard of hearing community, and would like to respectfully ask to suspend and pass this resolution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much, Councilor Flynn. The chair recognizes Councilor Edwards. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. It also noted in the resolution is the fact that I believe that 1 in 8 people are hard of hearing. And what I learned when I was taking my own ASL classes is it's the fourth.
Councilor Edwards, you're on mute.
Sorry, somehow you could hear me.
Yep.
It's the fourth spoken language in the country. So for many of us, that would be a question why BPS schools beyond the Horace Mann aren't also teaching ASL. It's about being inclusive and acknowledging that many of us at one point might have perfectly fine hearing now, but may not in the future. Or you may have a deaf child or someone in your family. And what I also learned while taking the ASL courses is that there is a true disconnect for many of the children who are children of color. A lot of their families, they go home to families that will not, cannot, and do not learn ASL. You imagine the time that you can speak and express yourself is only during school. So in this particular time during the pandemic, where a lot of them are still coming into stages of points of being able to access their own voice, literally their own voice. I think it's really incumbent on us, and I want to thank Councilor Flynn for introducing us to remind us of not only who is not seen, but also who is not heard in this moment in this pandemic. So I hope that we use this moment to think about having ASL options throughout all of our schools, just like we would want to teach Spanish or Haitian Creole, but also to make sure that when we're talking about the disconnect and understanding that a lot of families with deaf children are in unique positions where many of them, the children are trying to navigate our world without us reaching out and trying to welcome them in. So thank you so much, Councilor Flynn, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Not seeing anyone else who wants to speak, we will add names by a show of physical hands. Mr. Clerk, if you could please add Councilor Mejia. You already have Councilor Edwards, Councilor Bach, Councilor Arroyo, Councilor Baker, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor Braden, Councilor Sabi George, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Wu, Counselor Campbell, and please also add the chair. Counselors Flynn and Edwards seek suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 1022. Mr. Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Docket number 1022, Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards. Councilor Edwards,
Sorry, I was mute.
yes. Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Madam President, unanimous vote in the affirmative.
Thank you so much. Docket 1022 has been adopted. We'll move on to docket 1023.
Docket number 1023, Councilor Mejia offered the following: a resolution recognizing October as Dyslexia Awareness Month.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councilor Mejia. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to suspend the rules and add Councilor Asabi George as an original co-sponsor.
So thank you. And you don't need to suspend the rules for that one because you're the only one. You're just adding a second. But seeing and hearing no objections, Councilor Asabi George has been added. We only need to suspend the rules to add a third co-sponsor. So Councilor Asabi George has been added. Go ahead, Councilor Mejia.
Under federal law, dyslexia is a specific learning disability condition that makes students eligible for special education services, but educators fail to diagnose it. They, like the general public, think dyslexia is preserved for the IQ elite and families who are able to afford private educational assessments. The invisible dyslexics, predominantly more children, are academically doomed because their problems in learning to read are either diagnosed too late and treated too little, or not diagnosed or treated at all. October is recognized around the world as Dyslexia Awareness Month, for a time for people to come together to raise awareness, share resources, tell success stories about those who are living with dyslexia. A few notable names of famous people with dyslexia are Whoopi Goldberg, Jennifer Aniston, Albert Einstein, Muhammad Ali, Danny Glover, and a long list of others. We had the opportunity to work with Fabienne Ikla, or as we know her in our office, Miss Resources, on this hearing order. When writing this resolution, Fabienne kept bringing it back to education. Especially in this time of remote learning, we need to be intentional about finding new ways to address the needs of all students. Nobody deserves to go underserved or undervalued because of their dyslexia. I know this because of the work that Fabienne has done specifically with her own daughter as she struggles through the Boston Public Schools, seeking the resources and support that her daughter needed. And I am really happy to be able to work alongside Fabienne as we continue to fight for education justice across the entire city of Boston in all types of schools. So I move that we suspend the rules and pass this resolution in support of Dyslexia Awareness Month. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councilor Asabi George. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to Councilor Mejia for adding me as a co-sponsor to this resolution. On October 15th, I'm pleased to say that City Hall will be lit up red as part of this month's campaign to raise awareness around dyslexia. Back in June, I filed a hearing order to examine dyslexia services in BPS, and I'm looking forward to holding that hearing in October. My office is also organizing a virtual watch party on October 19th to view a few videos about dyslexia and talk with students and parents about their experiences with existing dyslexia services. I hope you will all join this watch party. I in particular want to also thank Fabienne Alicienne and Marcella Sliney, who have been incredibly helpful to me and my team, as well as Councilor Mejia's team, as she mentioned. They are both wonderful parents of dyslexic students or students with dyslexia and are passionate advocates for increasing awareness, screening, and support services for students with dyslexia. And it's so important that as we talk about education, we talk about preparing to return to school and making sure that students have access to the services they need, that we are paying particular attention to students with very specific needs that are too often undiagnosed and often very much siloed into one type of disability, that there is a spectrum along different disabilities and different learning styles that students have. So this work is incredibly important, and I'm so proud and elated to have Councilor Mejia's partnership and leadership in this effort as well. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Seeing and hearing no other discussion, would folks like to add their name? Show of physical hands, please. Mr. Clerk, if you could please add Councilor Flynn, Councilor Bach, Councilor O'Malley, Councilor Braden, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Baker, Councilor Arroyo, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Wu, Councilor Campbell. Please also add the chair. Councilors Mejia and Asabi George seek suspension of the rules and adoption of docket 1023. Mr. Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Docket number 1023, Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Madam President, unanimous vote in the affirmative.
Thank you so much. Docket 1023 has been adopted. We'll move on to personnel orders, starting with docket 1024.
Docket number 1024, Councilor Janey for Councilor Sabi George.
Councilor Sabi George seeks passage of docket 1024. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Docket number 1024, Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu. Madam President, affirmative, unanimous vote in the affirmative.
Thank you so much. Docket 1024 has passed. Now we will move on in our agenda to late files. As people know, I still frown upon late files. We do have two today, and one is a personnel order. So one is a personnel order from Councilor Braden. The other is a letter from our colleague explaining her tardiness. So at this point, the chair would like to add these to the agenda, and will do so by a roll call vote. Seeing and hearing no discussion or objections to adding these matters, we'll take the roll. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
For clarification, we're voting to just allow these two late files?
Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
We're adding them to the agenda.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Madam President, unanimous vote in the affirmative.
Thank you so much. So now these two late file matters have been added to our agenda. We'll take them separately, starting with the personnel order. Mr. Clerk, could you please read that late file matter?
Personnel order, Councilor Janey for Councilor Braden.
Thank you. Councilor Braden seeks passage of this late file matter. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Boggs.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Madam President, unanimous vote in the affirmative.
Thank you so much. So that was the personnel order for Councilor Braden, and that has been passed. We will now move on to the second late file matter. Mr. Clerk, if you could please read it into the record.
Madam President, I don't have that.
So I've sent, do you have the email?
My apologies, Madam President, we sent it to Council or to Clerk Feeney.
That's all right. Councilor Edwards, thank you. Mr. Clerk, if you check your email, you should have an email from me about a half hour ago with the actual letter. We're going to read it into the record.
Oh, yes, I got it.
Thank you so much. If you could read that letter into the record. This is the second late file matter, everyone.
Dear Council President Janey and City Clerk Feeney, I regret to inform you that I'll be tardy for our weekly council hearing on September 30th, 2020. I sincerely apologize for my brief absence. Thank you, and please read this letter into the record. Councilor Lydia Edwards.
Thank you so much. We have to vote on this matter as well. Mr. Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Councilor Arroyo.
Just to be clear, what matter are we voting on right now?
This is the second late file matter, which is a letter from Councilor Edwards explaining why she was tardy for the meeting. So the two late file matters, the first one was a personnel order. We just voted on that one. Now we're voting on the letter.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Bach.
Yes.
Councilor Bach, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia. Councilor Mejia.
Oh, she's trying to get into the room.
Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
O'Malley, yes. Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes. I got kicked off, but I'm here.
Okay. Councilor Mejia, yes. Madam President, unanimous vote in the affirmative.
Thank you. And I'm not sure we even needed to vote. That matter is being placed on file. Thank you. Now we'll move on to green sheets. And I don't believe we have anything coming off the green sheets, right? We've gotten no notification. Great. We will then move on to the consent agenda. Okay, and I don't believe there have been any additions there. So we will just adopt it as is. The chair moves for adoption of the consent agenda. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll for that. That we do need a roll call vote.
Councilor Arroyo.
Yes.
Councilor Arroyo, yes. Councilor Baker.
Yes.
Councilor Baker, yes. Councilor Buck.
Yes.
Councilor Buck, yes. Councilor Braden.
Yes.
Councilor Braden, yes. Councilor Campbell.
Yes.
Councilor Campbell, yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes. Yes.
Councilor Edwards, yes. Councilor Sabi George.
Yes.
Councilor Sabi George, yes. Councilor Flaherty.
Yes.
Councilor Flaherty, yes. Councilor Flynn.
Yes.
Councilor Flynn, yes. Councilor Janey.
Yes.
Councilor Janey, yes. Councilor Mejia.
Yes.
Councilor Mejia, yes. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley, yes. And Councilor Wu.
Yes.
Councilor Wu, yes. Madam President, unanimous vote in the affirmative.
Thank you so much. The consent agenda has been adopted, and we will now move on to announcements. Show of blue hands from any of my colleagues who would like to make a brief announcement. Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councilor Asabi George.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Later today, I'll be circulating a letter to council members regarding the need for more state support for our early education and child care centers. As you know, these centers have been struggling immensely during this pandemic. There has been little to no additional funding to support these centers. They are short on PPE, and the workforce, which is primarily comprised of Black and brown women, are decidedly underpaid for their work. I ask you all to sign on to this letter and send a clear message from this body that we need to support our early education and child care providers. I'd also like to share that this Friday we'll be continuing our Lunch and Learn series. We'll be live on my Facebook feed at 12:30 to learn from Mark Racine, BPS Director of Technology. We will continue the conversation around the digital divide and the technology challenges facing the BPS community this year. Anyone can submit questions ahead of time to my office or via the chat on the live stream. I hope to see you. There. I hope you'll tune in. I'd also like to make note that I missed this in my comments around the dyslexia resolution, and to note that Councillor Ed Flynn has been a tremendous partner in that work as well. Consistently and continually focused on supporting our students of all dealing with any learning disability and any challenges or unique learning styles. So I just want to make note to thank Councillor Flynn in that matter. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you so much. The chair recognizes Councillor Bach. Councillor Bach, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and thank you to you and my colleagues. This is a true moment of personal privilege. I just wanted to note in the tributes today, my grandfather, John Beamish Lister, passed after I won this seat, but before I took office on the council. And because of delays related to COVID, we were only able to bury him this weekend and to inter his ashes down at the National Military Cemetery in Bourne. And I just have been thinking about him a lot. And it's also 6 years since my other grandfather, John Fairfield Bach, passed. And both of them were real believers in city building and our civic institutions and the kind of frameworks we build even outside of government in order to survive resiliently the moments like the one we're in. So this is again, it's a true moment of personal privilege just to say that there's two John grandfathers, both important parts of my life, both actually Korean War veterans, who I'm thinking of very much this week. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Any other announcements from colleagues? Not seeing any blue hands. Let me just take a moment to thank Central staff. I am reminded more and more as, you know, I watched a little TV last night, I'm sure like some of you did, and, you know, I'm physically ill and in knots, and I just want to thank, it just made me feel so grateful that while we are in this mess that we're in, that I get to be in this mess with you guys. So I wanted to thank Central staff. I want to thank my own team for keeping me sane, or as sane as you can during these crazy times. And then I want to thank all of my colleagues here for your incredible work. It is really scary what we are going through as a nation, but I always believe that the work really starts at the local level. So I'm grateful to do this work with you. I wanted to thank our clerk with us today. I think I got through the meeting without once calling you Madam Clerk, so thank you. And I wanted to thank our pastor, Pastor Montblair. This might be the first time our clergy has stayed with us through the entire meeting, so it was great to have you here. Thank you for blessing us and praying for us at the beginning of the meeting. I ask that you can keep us in your prayer, keep us lifted in your prayer as a body and as individual counselors. So with that being said, why don't we move on to memorials. Like we always do, we will adjourn today in memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Bach, her grandfathers, John Bemis Leister and John Fairfield Bach. And for Councilor Asabi George, Joseph Nowak, Modestia G. Principe, and Regina Phillips. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. The chair moves that when the council adjourns today, it does so in memory of the aforementioned individuals. It is scheduled to meet again on Wednesday, October 7th at 12 noon for the safety of all involved, the general public, our staff. This meeting will be held online virtually and posted on YouTube. Viewers can go to YouTube or to our city's website and view this meeting and participate by going to boston.gov/city-council-TV. Again, that's boston.gov/city-council-TV. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Aye. The council is adjourned.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks all.
You too. Enjoy it.